Liz Cheney has become, well, let's call her a real party pooper. And what I mean by this is that she is now pooping not just over Trump, but all over the Republican Party in general. She is pooping over Kari Lake and Republican nominees all over the country. And she doesn't seem to have a kind of enduring commitment to being a Republican at all. In fact, she said recently that, quote, if he is the nominee, namely Trump, I won't be a Republican. Now, let's think about why somebody would say that. Let's say that you are a Christian and you believe that Mr. X would be the perfect person to be, let's say, head of the Southern Baptist Convention or be even the Pope if you're Catholic. Would it make sense to say, well, if they decide to choose Francis as the Pope, I'm no longer going to be a Catholic? Well, that really shows that your Catholicism is not really rooted in a kind of fidelity to Catholic principles, Catholic tradition, Catholic history, because if it were, you'd be like, well, it's unfortunate that we got this Pope. We could certainly do better. But the church has been around for 2,000 years. It's got enduring principles. My point is, the very fact that Cheney is talking like this suggests that something is up. Now, if you listen to Cheney, she says things like, we have to step back from the abyss. She says that there's a shift going on in our politics. The tectonic plates are shifting, and that means we all have a responsibility to say to ourselves, what are we going to do to make sure that our kids, what it means to have a peaceful transfer of power? Now, I think what she's coming back to here is the 2020 election to January 6th. It seems that this woman is fixated on this. But I think that the fixation itself needs an explanation. Why be so fixated on something that was not, in a sense, a real thing? The military strategist Edward Luttwak wrote an essay, this is now several years ago, where he basically said that insurrections in the modern era don't really work. In fact, he talks about the insurrection in Paris in 1968, where really there were hundreds of thousands, perhaps a couple of million Frenchmen, and an insurrection from the left, by the way, to overthrow the French government. And it just literally went nowhere. And this was an effort to really do it. And Luttwak's point is that in the modern era where the state has the kind of weaponry at its disposal that it does, ordinary citizens cannot by themselves overthrow the government. It's not going to happen that way. And that's worth kind of keeping in mind to give us some perspective, because what it really shows is that nobody with any sense thought for 1 minute. The left is pretending when they act like this was an attempt to overthrow the government. It actually wasn't. Not only did no one going into the Capitol think that they were overthrowing the government, but nobody on the left even really believes that they were either. And so our rhetoric has taken on a kind of fictional quality. Now, for Liz Cheney to essentially not only accept what the Biden administration is doing, the chaos they're perpetrating on every front, but to actually promote it by campaigning for more Democrats to secure the Biden hold on power. Why would anybody who is a real Republican, and I don't just mean a rhino, Liz Cheney through most of her career has not been a rhino, is it just the lesser evil? And a lesser evil to what? I think what's going on here is a twisted revenge plot on the part of the Cheney family. They're like a mafia family, or to put it differently, they're like the Montagues and the Capulets. And what gives the Montagues pleasure is to harm the Capulets, and vice versa. Debbie and I watch these kind of murder stories sometimes on television, just for, I don't know if it's really a very I was going to say for entertainment or for distraction, maybe is a better term. But you discover that when people commit murder, their motives are really only three. Money, sex, and a third, often overlooked, revenge. What's interesting about revenge is that you don't seem to get anything out of it directly. But what you do is you get the pleasure of hitting back. And it turns out to be a very powerful motive. And I think it's the motive that's driving the driving Liz Cheney and the Cheney family. And the effect of it, I think, interestingly enough, and this often happens with revenge, is you're trying to destroy somebody else and you end up destroying yourself. So what happens is that here's Liz Cheney. She's trying to poop over Trump. She's trying to poop all over the Republican Party. But I think it's her own career that's going to end up in a pile of poop.